question is, how did you see the organization of the conference and on an online format? John, how do you think the organization and how did you think the conference went in this new COVID format?
At the beginning, I was very critical, but meanwhile, I have to say, this kind of conference also works online. I have seen all the presentations and really they were all fantastic, really very interesting. And it's different. It's very, very different, but it works.
I think so. I think it's neither better or worse. I think it's the idea is that it is different and it works, definitely. Pablo or Carlo, do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's good insofar as we don't make the mistake of comparing it with a different type of face-to-face conference. So if we treat it as a different beast and then we make the most of what it has to give us, I think it's brilliant. And I think it takes some adapting from everyone. So as a speaker, for example, you have to adapt to new deadlines, to the idea of sending the subtitles, which, for example, I was too late to send and that kind of thing. And even how to get organized, as in when am I going to see all these videos? How am I going to see them? How am I going to take notes if I want to take notes? All those things we need to, but once you get into how to do it and you organize yourself, then it's really, really nice. Okay, we're missing the interaction, but at the same time, you can make the most of all those. I don't know. I was just taking notes and I was thinking maybe if I was at that conference, I'll be missing one of these two presentations, or I'll be, talking to somebody else. And here I can really make the most of them at whatever time I need. So I have to say I haven't seen two of the presentations, but again, this is my need to get organized. But I think you can much more easily make the most of the presentations in this way. And in general, it just takes a little bit of adapting. That's all.
And Carlo?
Speaking after Pablo is always difficult because he says always everything and always perfectly.
Too fast.
Fortunately and compactly. Yeah. Fortunately, he missed one thing, which I think is an important element of online conferences, meaning SEO. The possibility of watching these presentations again in the future and searching for them in a future scenario. For example, 1, 2, or 10 years, people can Google live subtitling and see that 10 years ago people were discussing these things. And this helps, I think, not to reinvent the wheel again and again and again.
Brilliant.
Do you think that we had people that they wouldn't have come if he had been on a face-to-face? For example, I don't know, Ebru and Sirin from Turkey. Do you think they would have come all the way? I'm talking about them because they're the first ones, but do you think that it has any influence? For example, one of the key speakers, one of the key speakers is from Japan. Do you think he would have come for this, or does it make sense to bring someone from Japan to deliver a key speaker and all the impact, the ecological impact? I know I'm mixing two things together, but do you think it makes sense?
I think this comes at the right time, really, because, when talking about the US and Europe, talking about captions and subtitles, as we were talking before, much
look at
easier.
My t-shirt. Look
exactly.
at my
t-shirt.
Yeah,
look at my t-shirt.
That was my cue. Exactly. So whether we want to be captionized or not, then the idea that we can have speakers from other areas. I mean, we've been organizing this conference for, Carlo, how many editions so far?
This is the 7th.
Yep.
And it's proved difficult to bring. I mean, this is not a huge conference over however many days. Not easy to bring someone from that far away. And here, of course, with the online and asynchronous format, that's definitely made it easier.
Yes, and if I can add something to Pablo again, if we look at the side event that comes on Friday, the LTA event, it gathered 200 people. I don't know if you have ever experienced 200 people to a European project multiplier event before that. And you can only have these numbers thanks to online conferences. So I think that from this perspective, it's a huge success.
Yeah, I would say that maybe as speaking with Stella about this, and thank you so much, Stella, for organizing everything, because again, it was a first for us and I guess for you in many ways. Um, Making the PowerPoints available is quite interesting. We've only kind of asked at a later stage, but maybe when we get into a bit more of a role as to how to organize these things, I think it's interesting because different people may have a chance to look at the video or may want to actually access and have the PowerPoint. So whether we I don't know, require that or we just politely ask, I don't know, but I think it's kind of a good asset to have the PowerPoint as well.
I
Yeah.
think we all have to learn how to cope with this kind of conference because it's new for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I mean, even looking at the topics, Pilar, it's been great. It's been the breadth of topics that we've covered. I don't think it's been, I don't remember, but very difficult to actually group them in the different sections that we have. But they really fit very nicely there. And they give us a super interesting kind of snapshot of what's going on at the moment. That's, I have to say, it's always been the case for this conference, which is small. It's very hassle-free normally, but do you not get the impression that this conference is normally quite focused and we normally get a good idea of what's going on? Is that not the idea that we normally get after the conference? Pilar, quite happy with it normally.
Yes, and I totally agree with you. And I also have to say as well that the topics are sort of more diverse. We seemed always to be on the same, and this time I think we just widen up very much the scope, which is lovely. I don't know, because it is the right time to widen the scope. Do you know what I mean? Perhaps 10 years ago, it was impossible to talk about decentralization or about automatic, because it would be, everybody would be disagreeing with it, or 360 or whatever. So perhaps I don't know if it is the right time for the technology. The technology is ripe to widen up, or because I don't know, but it is a much more diverse, a much more not richer but more different. Yes. And the other thing that I like very much is that there are new people coming, because it's like we are like a family, that we always do everything together and we all know each other. And the fantastic thing in this conference is that there are people that completely new people that are coming in and they're doing research and sharing it with us.
That's right. That's right. I'd like to mention some presentations and then or mention some ideas that came up in different presentations. So Pilar was quite right in saying that we have new people, and so we have, for example, the presentation about Turkey was very interesting to see how everything is kind of beginning there. I thought that was fascinating, but also because even though they're starting from scratch, they can now actually use a lot of the stuff that's going on now. So they're starting from scratch in a different way, completely different way, as compared to how we started from scratch. So this is very interesting. I also found very interesting to have researchers like, for example, Elena Daviti and her project on like smart project, but then in the same panel dealing with the same interlingual re-speaking issue, which is quite hot at the moment. Then we also have Evan talking about his experience and saying, well, I had to retrain as an interpreter. I'll never be as good as, or as, you know, excellent as an interpreter, but depending on what job I have, I decide whether to go for interpreting plus intralingual re-speaking or interlingual re-speaking. And that was very interesting to see the choices that are being made now, because there's a demand. I find that there's a demand for, okay, give me live. Actually, the companies that we are talking to, which are constantly asking for interlingual live subtitling, they call it completely different things. So there's this American company contacting me every day, and I pass it on to Carlo normally, who calls them bilingual captioners. And yesterday, after an hour on the phone explaining that, you know, there are interpreters here. They need to be paid. This is very difficult. He said, yes, I totally get it. And then, and then he said, have you got any of those bilingual transcribers available? So, you know, all sorts of names. But Evan was quite interestingly touching upon the different methods from a practical point of view. Then Elena, from a theoretical point of view, also mentioning those methods. Carlo, showing us in practice how two of those methods work at the parliament, which was fantastic because it was the editing, post respeaking or post automatic captioning. And then you have Valencia, where in this case, they don't have speech recognition. So they were looking at typing. So different stages, and somehow they all kind of giving us a very interesting picture of what's going on, and the idea that you choose among the different possibilities that are at your disposal. So I think that's fascinating.
And John, from an industry point of view, because this is research that Pablo was talking about, but what about from an industrial approach? For you,
well,
what are the...
I think you mentioned that there were new people coming, and it's true, there are new people coming, and it's because the organizers also looked at the value chain. So what is coming after the respeaking? Because the one depends from the other, and this is, I think, is the key. We need each other. So that if respeakers want to have work, they are dependent on the whole value chain. Otherwise, it does not work. And I think this is the best thing in this conference.
I agree completely.
So in other words, I completely agree that the market perspective got much stronger.
Yes.
So, so the university work is essential, is crucial, but on the other hand, the market perspective is essential. That after the studies, these students find work.
Yeah. I have to say, though, that I don't think there's many presentations, maybe not one, unlike in other audiovisual translation conferences, for example, that is only academic, not dealing with it. I think most presentations, even the more theoretical ones, are actually looking at the practical side of things, and the transfer of the knowledge transfer is there. So I don't think there's any risk here of having presentations that are in the ivory tower and not dealing with the reality of things, right? I mean, is that my impression only, or?
No, and this is different to former conferences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. All of them, some of them are more oriented, academic oriented, but all of them, you're absolutely right, Pablo. All of them, you can see that there is a transfer from academia to examples, or to the market, or to teaching, or to whatever. So I fully agree. We don't have the boring, the very academic presentations that sometimes
Pilar,
we get.
This is being recorded, you know, yeah?
I know this is recorded, but it's true. And I like something that you said before, that sometimes we are listening to a presentation, and because we are chatting, we don't pay attention to it. And I am the one who chats all the time.
Yeah, I was thinking of you, Pilar.
I know, because I get bored very quickly.
Yeah, but
so was a very good format, because I paid attention to all of them.
And one thing that also that I think has been touched upon in this conference a bit more, I don't know, we've been more focused on that, is the automatic speech recognition. I mean, it's here, and there's the analysis here or coming. You know, we have Maria Rico talking about how it works in Galician, how far it is to be used, if it wants to be used with a human or not. Then we have Tom Wooten talking about, you know, it's not an if it's going to come, it's more of how it's going to be used, right? So it's there many different ways, and I like that, because now it's just one more element that we all have. We work with it, not against it. It's not about, you know, it's going to take our jobs or whatever. This is not the considerations that we are having here, right? It's more like, okay, when is it going to be used and how does the human come in there or not. So
And
I think that that's very nice. There's not this just idea of, oh God, don't bring the machines,
yeah,
right?
yeah, we're not gatekeepers anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
The gatekeeping is finished. And I also liked very much, for example, the presentation by Robin Rybak from Helios. Sorry, yeah, that in Swiss text, John, that's you. They are using automatic subtitling or automatic for science. What's it called? Citizen journalism. So again, it is applied outside the broadcasting, and it's just moving into different new areas that we didn't think about them what the last edition, and now here we have where citizens are just going to interact. They're from consumers to prosumers, and they need accessibility.
yeah,
And to me, this is something that Swiss Text is done very well, because they've sort of gone together developing this accessibility with the citizen journalism. John, was that done on purpose, that you would develop this new service and the accessibility at the same time?
Well, the first there was the project to do the city journalism, and then of course we wanted to make it accessible. And here again, you have a value chain. It's also here the same. Pablo, you said before that in several presentations they were talking about automatic speech recognition. One topic that, in my opinion, was missing is the impact for re-speakers. The impact for re-speakers out from the automatic speech recognition. I haven't found that.
when you're talking about impact on re-speakers, you mean
Well,
re-speakers working to edit the output of speech record of
in
automatic,
general,
or in general
will the job as a re-speaker one day
be extinct?
yes.
I don't know. We need to see, but I mean, Pilar is saying no, and maybe she's right. I think at the moment what we are hoping to get soon is more of what Carlo has done, which is okay, because we're not just saying no, don't bring the machines or whatever. Rather, we're just seeing how it works. There's two things one that I was thinking. I hope I can get to say this, which is the fact that we are not accepting but dealing with the machines here doesn't mean that we're still not looking at quality. So presentation like Zoe, for example, because I mean, after all, we are academics, and we're supposed to do this, right? We can't just give a free pass to these things. And Zoe, for example, is using the NAM model now adapted to live events, whether or not with automatic speech recognition. So we still need to measure that. Otherwise, I mean, I can imagine how somebody will come and say, "Oh no, I'm always getting a 99% with my automatic speech recognition." Well, let's see, right? Let's see. Carlo is giving us data about that. He's using speech recognition that is automatic plus editing, and he is giving us data with his WIRA model and telling us as well those results. So I think first, quality still needs to be looked at. And perhaps we're not making a big deal out of it as we were in other conferences, but it's there. And I think it's important that we keep at it across countries and across cultures. And the impact, I don't know, we need to look into that, because I think at the moment we're beginning those studies where we are comparing the performance of, how good, I don't know, using the same audiovisual text or live event, how do different methods perform? So with a human, with the automatic speech recognition, with editing, with a combination of both. At the moment, we're still looking at that. Carlo has done a little bit. We're beginning to do a little bit. So I think the next conference will have results on that. And then we'll see. Because Evan is telling us already that companies are telling us, well, we need the final output to be live subtitles, right? With translation. Now, how you get there, I don't mind. Companies don't mind, right? So then we have to tell them, okay, so for this one, you may want to use interpreter and re-speaker, but that will mean more quality, but more delay. Are you happy with that or not? And it will mean so much money. So I think that at some point, if we're all clued up about this, we may have a map where we say, for this particular event, the company decides to pay so much because they want this result. So they go for that method. Whereas for that other event, quality is not so important, delay doesn't matter, I go for this method, which is cheaper. So then they'll be able to choose, but we are not there yet. And then, Gion, we may know what impact it's having on re-speakers. But Pilar was saying no, and I may agree with her. Do you think an interlingual re-speaker To be replaced completely, you may need automatic speech recognition plus machine translation. That's a lot of machines there. So adding mistakes from one and the other, I think, I don't know, if the question is whether the human is going to be there, my guess is that in some capacity or another is going to be there. Pilar, what do you think?
I think as soon as accessibility becomes part of the market in a normalized way, like any other business, like watches, like making watches or suits or t-shirts, you can buy a cheap machine-made t-shirt with a print like this that it's just printed by a machine, or
Yeah,
you could have a beautiful t-shirt with a hand embroidered
yeah,
logo. And or you can have a good chocolate or a bad chocolate. You can
yeah,
have a good watch or a rubbish watch. So I think it would be part of the normal normalization of the services in a normal market situation. And then quality will be there. You would pay more or less according to what you get.
agreed.
That is to do with languages, is to do with how people speak. You, Pablo, speak so fast that I'm sure you would destroy any machine. Any machine after you will just get smoke out of it. While John, who speaks very quietly and
Mhm.
very nicely, will get, I don't know. Also, people who have problem with speech impairment would need, won't be able to do it with a machine. So you would always need a human to
Agreed, Pilar.
interpret and to. So I think the human would never go away. The problem is the human would always be more expensive than a machine. Yeah, but no, humans we are needed,
Yeah,
and
we are
we are
needed, and
quality, and we are quality.
I
yeah, and
think
that's
so.
why also the movement towards kind of more creative media access is also interesting because that's where the human is very much needed, right? And will be. We don't have machines making films, right? And we have people. So media access that is a little bit more creative, then it's a nice corner where the human is always going to be needed. So I agree with Pilar. And then if we get a little bit more specific, we still know that machines are struggling with uh, captioning or subtitling people who speak at the same time, right? We know that. I don't know, captioning with a lot of noise at the background, all those issues that machines still have. And the big one, which is one that I was discussing with some people in the US, Christian Vogler from Gallaudet University today, which is if we have machines that are captioning automatically, then we have verbatim subtitles. If somebody speaks as fast as this, subtitles are really fast. So, do we have machines that can caption automatically and edit down and summarize at the same time? I think at the moment that's not there, right? So again, it's the human who uses their judgment to do this. So I feel sometimes that by worrying too much about whether a human is going to be there or not, we just waste time. There's so many more exciting things to do, right? Don't you think, Carlo and Pilar?
I,
Yes, yes. Plus, if you look at at what happens with translation, um, when automatic translation came into the market, everybody was scared about it, and everybody feared that machine translation would replace human translation. What has happened is that the market of translation has become huge. So there's been a lot of things that have been translated, and the amount of things that need to be translated by humans has also increased.
Yeah,
So I think that technology in this field is going to do the same. If you look at what YouTube has done, YouTube has invested a lot on on automatic speech recognition. And at a given moment, they said, we are stopping investing on it because we are not uh, getting enough compared to what we are investing, meaning that technology is at its maximum here. Uh, and if you want in the future to apply machine automatic speech recognition to whatever, to whatever event, so for example, to a phone call, to whatever thing that comes to your mind that is not subtitled yet, well, you can use speech recognition to subtitle that event. But if you want a nice event, don't know, the Venice Film Festival to be subtitled, I don't think that organizers are going to run the risk of having machine translation doing a bad job for them.
Mm, I agree.
So
And also in this conference, we see so many people doing so much kind of interesting work that it is really a waste of time. I mean, it makes me think that subtitling is what happens while we worry about automatic subtitling. You know what I mean? So it's just best not to think about it and carry on with the amount of work which is really big that we have, right, Pilar?
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, plus we have another thing in this symposium, meaning people from other disciplines joining. So it's not just academic people or professionals or companies, but also people from other fields, because we are seeing more and more people who come from different fields, like, for example, reporting or subtitling, which is a totally different, which was a totally different field done by people not coming from the audiovisual translation uh, sector, or sound engineers who are also joining the symposium, providing a totally different perspective. So I think that yeah, we're going the right direction. The family is getting
Yep.
bigger and bigger, and
This.
it's getting also increasing in quality.
What can I ask you then? What do you think is missing, or what would you like to see in the next conference? I don't know, whenever that is in 2 years. What are we thinking that we need now?
To me, something very crazy is how you move from speech from to sign language, for example.
Mm,
Are we going to be able to? I presume that we will be over the interlingual subtitling, so live interlingual subtitling, yeah, and that's again will very quickly will happen, I think. And then how are we going to do this multimodal? How are we going to go from speech to sign language to sign language to speech to sign language to sign speech from one language to another sign language, translation into another sign language? That would be, yeah, all this interlingual multimodality would
mhm.
be fascinating. I'd love
Brilliant.
that. I'd love
Brilliant,
to
because
see.
at the moment we know that we're still trying to crack how to subtitle live into another language. We're still trying to crack that, right? But once that is happening and the industry is pushing us, so it will happen and we'll find a way or different ways. Then how do we turn that into sign language in another language? Yes, 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 of course.
That would be the other thing that would be fantastic, or something that's I'm really looking forward to, is the 360. And then it would be, and then the door is open to creative subtitling
Hmm, hmm.
and to creating so creative live
Yeah,
subtitling
I was going to
in
mention that.
360.
Mm,
Wow, can you imagine?
brilliant.
That would
Exactly,
be,
because at the moment, live subtitles, it's always been about surviving. Just get it out there and make sure that the quality is good enough, and that's it. But we've always been told, no, you can't really describe sounds because you can't afford to do that. Just focus on getting them right and not too late, right? So it was about quality, actually accuracy rather, and not much delay. But then quality, yeah, then we add a little bit more about don't cover important information and that kind of thing. But we've never ever attempted to be creative, right? I mean, not that I know of with live, but of course there will be a point where we'll need that as well, just as it's done in other areas. So that's definitely to be done as well. Yeah.
and I think I have lots of things to I would also like,
Well, that's why I ask you the question, Pilar.
I would also like, Shazam, like you can get from two notes, you understand quickly what the song that is playing, you know. I think it's only with 6 notes.
Okay.
Only with 6 notes, you already get the song that is playing, and you get the title of the song and who it. So we will be, if we could sort of do the opposite. So if I was a subtitler and I have to say the song that is playing, I will no longer say music playing, or I could choose the title of the song. I could choose, or I could go on the mood. You know, this song means whatever. And so if we had a huge database that is already existing in Spotify, it really exists, yeah, and you reverse that, then you would be able to have automatic music or automatic sounds as well. So you wouldn't need to interpret what I'm hearing or what is the priority, because that would be done by a database. Why not? I think the most important thing for the next conference will be to keep on focusing on the value chain topic. I agree. And it's mainly because we need to create a market. And when we can create a market, there will be jobs. I have a question for the organizer, who is Estella. Estella, how would you do things differently if you had to organize something like this again?
I think that, actually, I think that everybody is very used to it, or is, since from March until now, people has gone a very fast way, and what you could imagine in March, now it's something that is more normal. One of the things that I would really like for the next time would be that the people, some of them provided already audio description, how you audio describe yourself in your presentation. This is something that really it's fascinating, and it also belongs to this, no? Live subtitling is getting closer to other fields. And for instance, Zoe Moraes, she says, I have a very difficult chart inserted in my presentation, so I send you a handout to explain it, and the people can download it and can read it easily. So these sort of things.
Yeah, this is super interesting.
Something that it will be a learning process, and so, and I think that this is something that it's really needed, because at the end we belong to accessibility. We are not outside. We are not a different field. We are all linked together.